Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone, or should I say happy lunchtime. You are here with myself, Zoe Gowan, who's if you haven't met me, I'm the new executive editor of Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles. And I am lucky to spend the Thursday before summer officially starts, at least in my mind, maybe not the calendar, with Memorial Day with architect Norman Askins and landscape architect John Howard to kick off our summers with a lot of inspiration on some behind the scenes stories and reveals and never before seen photos of all that goes into the magic of their wonderful estates that they have developed in Atlanta. So we have 3 projects for you that we'll go through. And then please make sure to stick around for the end excuse me, because at the end, Norman and John have opened up their own iPhone camera roll. So we're actually going to kind of see through the eyes of what they see of their all-time favorite project details. And then also just to give you a little Zoom 101 reminder, you can send me chats using the chat. You can send me questions and I will try and bubble them up to Norman and John. We keep getting the same question over and over. And then if not, we are going to be open for a short Q&A at the end where you can ask them everything you've always wanted to ask them. And also keep in mind that all of you who have signed up, thank you to spend your lunch hour. You do get a free issue of our May digital edition. So thank you for joining us, and I will stop talking so that we can let the design minds themselves give a little introduction, although I don't really think they need one. But John, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this presentation today. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm landscape architect in Atlanta, in case you don't know me. My firm is Howard Design Studio. I'm sitting here in my office today. I've actually been working from home for a couple of months, like most of us. And anyway, I'm broadcasting from my office. We're here in Midtown. The Midtown Towers are right outside this window. I'm on the 19th floor, and my studio is this way. And we do primarily high-end residential garden design and landscape architecture, site planning. And we work mainly in collaborative teams, like with Norman Askins and interior designers. So glad to be here.
All right. Well, we're glad you're here too. And Norman?
Well, I'm Norman Askins, and I have a practice in Atlanta I've had for nearly 41 years. And we specialize in like restoration, historic preservation, new classical houses, farmhouses, beach houses, whatever people want. And we stress, like John does, a collaboration with landscape architects, interior designers, because we feel like that's when you get the best possible project you'll ever get, is having a collaboration of all the disciplines. And it always works the best, in my opinion. So I look forward to showing you some of my stuff.
Well, good. Well, let's hop into it and let's make a home vacation through these homes, take some of those ideas with us. And so I'm going to get started, but before I do want to give a special thank you to Emily Followell for letting us use a lot of her beautiful images for this. And of course, thank you to Norman and John. All right, so let's get started. Oops, that's not the way we want to go. All right, so kicking off this project, Norman and John, how did you do this? It feels sort of like the most cliche park-like setting, but it just feels peaceful, but like it's been there forever. And what is y'all's starting point? Is it at the planning phase?
Well, this was the site of a ugly ranch house, and I didn't know about. I'd never seen the site before, and the owner actually found it, and I about had a fit when I saw it. And of course, John and I both saw these pear trees and knew the house had to relate to those trees because it gives it instant age and instant beauty. So, John, go ahead.
Yeah, there was, actually the whole front of this lot where you see the lawn right now was was wooded, but it was little pine trees that had grown up. So we actually cleared that. The site is on a curve in a roadway, and it's somewhere between 3.5 and 4 acres. And when siting the house, like Norman said, the 2 trees kind of dictated the perfect spot. But it meant that there was a sweeping front property on 2 sides, basically. And we utilized the rear of the lot for entertaining spaces.
Like that?
Like that. Yeah. So it was a hillside that continued to rise. We actually, it was interesting. We had to carve out about 14 feet into the hillside to create a flat space for the gardens in the back. And we did it with some terraced walls. And then Norman designed this beautiful pool cabana that became the backdrop into the hillside.
Oh, wow. So this whole area was it sloping and then you all built it in?
If you look behind it, you can see the trees up above. There's actually a 14-foot cut there that you don't recognize because the building and the walls are engaged into the slope. And we actually used the soil from there to build up the front of the house and lift it up so that you could see the whole facade from the street. I think we filled about 6 feet on the front behind those 2 oak trees.
How long does a project like this take from the clients have found the lot and they've assembled they've called John and Norman, and then you both start drawing from there? And then how long does it take to look lush and complete like it does?
Probably 2.5 years, don't you think, John?
Yeah, 2.5, 3 years is, I would say, typical for a project like this. And part of that, you have a good year of planning. We had a great survey with trees and topography on it, and a lot of collaboration in the design phase, and then
fabulous clients. Don't forget about what amazing clients.
Really amazing clients.
Oh gosh.
They had a great program. They wanted to be able to entertain their friends, and more so than that, just have a good family space. And she is an avid gardener. She wanted gardens around the house, so we tried to make the pool, which is the kind of the centerpiece of the back garden, kind of lush. So the pool actually sits in a garden.
Oh, I love those containers that you've done by the pool. Is this a signature? It really does make it feel so much warmer than just stone.
Well, Norman's house was modeled after, I think, some precedent in Virginia, and we wanted to kind of pull that whole idea into the garden furnishings. My team actually designed those. They're modeled after fruit tree boxes from early America, and we had them made by a craftsman here in town. They're made out of aluminum. They look like tongue and groove boards, and the rings they would have used to lift the boxes and move them around.
Recently, this is a more recent photograph, and Judy Bentley, an interior designer in town, just redid all the furniture, and I think that green is the most amazing color.
Absolutely perfect. She did such a beautiful job.
She did it perfectly. Before it was white, and it looked great, but this just really zaps, the furniture, makes it really look complete.
Yes, it feels so lush and structured. And I do know I just got a question for those that are asking. It is McKinnon and Harris via Judy Bentley.
That's right. Beautifully done.
Virginia-made furniture.
This is the owner's little her garden shed, that we fitted out with, potting shed, and it's all beautifully fitted out with all the pots and vases and all that stuff that you could ever want to use, which is great. John did these wonderful pocket gardens, which I think are just amazing.
Yeah, yeah. There's the potting shed that Norman was just talking about, and this picket fenced garden is a side entry. It's the porte cochere, and it's adjacent to kind of the back entry that the family uses the most. And it's a parterre of dwarf boxwood and has all kinds of culinary herbs that grow in it.
So she can just come. She can come home and just clip and cook.
Yep, yep. It's all in that garden.
Dream.
It makes a really pretty segue from the garage court into the house as well.
Yeah, because there's lots of architecture, and so this breaks it all down and makes it seem way more charming.
Okay. And then what is this, her cutting garden? Is this in her back lawn?
An herb garden, yeah.
Yeah, this is part of the cutting garden. This is off the side of the pool. There's this space. There are these beautiful, this bench is called the Almoddington bench, made by Munder Skiles, who is in upstate New York. It's a design that was found on the Hudson River Valley, and John Danzer, who owns Munder Skiles, has recreated it. And it's made of mahogany and painted with a lacquer paint. It really kind of makes the space.
It's a beautiful one. Should we skip to our next lawn and garden?
Sure.
Sure.
All right. Where is this home? And is this home old or is it new? Because it feels like it's been there for forever, but it feels like
almost 100 years old. It was designed by Neil Reed. It was actually his last project. He died very young, and the story goes that one of his last outings was in a wheelchair to see this house under construction. And it's based on the Hammond Harwood house in Annapolis. And a young family bought it maybe 25 years ago, and they asked me to come over and help them. The brick was not working so well, so I found somebody to fix the brick issue. And the next thing you know, we did the entire third floor. We renovated everything, added garages, pool house, guest house, all kinds of. It turned into a huge project, which was so fun.
It's beautiful. So John,
complex, buildings.
So I love all the different layers of it, but the landscaping is also so clean. John,
well,
can you tell me about?
We like clean. Clean works really well when there's great architecture. Clean and green. The front of the house is a big sweeping lawn, boxwoods. The image you had of the rear, there's kind of an oval pool that is original to the house. And we restored a parterre. The parterre was only 3/4 of a parterre, which I thought was very strange. I'm not sure if originally it was complete. There were no drawings of it, but we restored it, made it a complete parterre, restored the pond. The pond has pachysandra planted around it, and it is you pass through this garden to get to the pool complex that was a new addition, the stone buildings that you'll see that Norman so beautifully designed.
This is the new garage complex. This is the entranceway into this courtyard. On the left and the right are 4 garage bays, and the original garage was in this same location. It was a wooden building with, believe it or not, a wooden floor for cars. I've seen several of those around. And the thing was literally caving in. There was no way to restore it. Plus, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So we took it down and did this. And this on the left is his office and a guest house and a most incredible wine cellar we've ever seen under his office. Then the garage is on the right. So this gate leads into the pool, as well as from the house, you have the other access. And this is a view of the office complex with the guest house on the right and the office on the left. So we picked up all the details from the house, the architectural details, so it all looks, I think, pretty original.
What made you decide to switch to the stone for the outbuildings?
Well, we felt like white brick was just so formal, and we needed to knock it down a little bit. So, and there was stone walls around in the house, so we decided to go ahead with stone, make it look more, more back of house, more charming. So this is a view. That's the pool house we designed.
Yeah,
And that's the view from the garden, the parterre garden that John was talking about. A view to the pool and the pool house.
All right. How do y'all collaborate? Do y'all collaborate on the gates, or does that fall to Norman, or does that fall to John?
well, the gates, the arch over the gate. We found a lot of garden antiques for this project, and the archway over the gate was an antique find, and so that was kind of the precedent for creating these gates. And there's a similar archway on the axial approach to the pool, and the gates were designed with some of the same detailing.
Where do you find some of your architectural finds?
Oh, I've got my sources.
Oh yeah.
It's really all over. You kind of discover things over time, and know where the go-to places are, and like the overgate arch here was found in a gallery in New York. Actually, a lot of things were found in New York for this particular project, but I have sources in England and France that deal in architectural salvage and garden antiques.
Wow. It sounds like they're trade secrets.
Oh
They're
yeah.
absolutely trade secrets.
No.
Well, everyone asking will just have to email John directly for those. Okay. I do have one question about what is this vine growing? And Norman, were you able to salvage anything from the original wooden garages?
No, it was rotten. It was a mess. It hadn't been used in probably 20, 30 years. It was a mess.
And the answer to the vine question is that is Madison jasmine. Well, it's also known as Confederate jasmine, but Madison is a Confederate jasmine vine found in Madison, Georgia, that was particularly cold resistant. So it's just known as Madison jasmine. It's the best of the Confederate jasmines in our climate.
All right. I love that it's named for Madison. Okay. So I think it's time to leave this park-like setting and move to the castle. That's what I want to call it. But will y'all tell me everything about this project? It seems like it had to be the project of an Atlanta lifetime.
Oh, it was amazing. I actually snuck over there with the owner, and well, I could tell she was dying for this house, but she said, of course we can't buy it, blah, 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 blah. And it was a mess. It was really, nobody had lived there in years, and it was dark, dark, dark. And it was, had heavy curtains, and it was so depressing, a lot of dark wood. So anyway, long story short, they bought it, which I figured would happen. And it's amazing that it's such a large piece of land. That's almost 5 acres, I think, right in Buckhead. And the house was red brick and very disjointed. It was a house I remember from college when I was here, thinking that house is better looking than you think it is. So we painted it, did all these special paint finishes, and it is truly amazing. And that
the other thing I'll add to that that was part of the plan. There was a lot of hardscape. There was a big loop drive in the front. There were patios and terraces all over. It was very hot feeling, and they wanted to have more like a park-like setting. So part of what we did at the beginning was to decide which paving to remove, and we probably removed 60, 70% of the paving that was on the property to create green space.
More than that, maybe. It was a lot.
Is this paving right here, is this original or did you add this in, John?
Actually, that is original. And the driveway approach, I think, is close to original as well, from what I could tell.
We added the gates, the wood gates, yeah.
And I love this.
Then this is a family that they have 3 children and they have lots and lots of grandchildren. So this house is literally like a country club. You know, the weekends, the whole family comes over, and they had this, that was a 16-car garage, and we turned it into, you know, like a pool house, a fabulous gymnasium, and upstairs are 2 new apartments. And so it's a whole, it's like, it's got swimming pools, it's got pool pavilions, it's got everything you could want for children and grandchildren. And so it's a very active weekend house all year long, actually. And then John, we had to redo the swimming pool, and it was it was red brick and very hard looking and very somber looking. We had to tear down parts of the house. It was such a mess. It was coming apart. So we rebuilt a lot of the house.
Yeah, the swimming pool, like Norman was saying, the pool deck was red brick, and it was surrounded by a red brick wall, no green space at all. So we ripped all of that out. The pool shape is original, and the diving board is original, believe it or not. But this stairway you're seeing in this image is a new connection from the pool up to a lawn space. And then this long dining table, they utilize that all the time. And it had a dark paving under it before. We took that out and put a gravel terrace there.
Okay, is there, John, I think a lot of people are dealing with brick, dark red brick around their swimming pool. Is there any kind of easy fix for that, or other than ripping it out?
The problem in our climate, I mean, I love the look of brick around a pool, but our climate is so hot in the summertime, you know, the brick just absorbs heat and radiates heat. So I don't think it's a good choice in Atlanta. This is Indiana limestone that we used here, and it's a material I use a lot around pools. It's soft on the feet. It doesn't absorb the heat, and it's beautiful.
And it wears really well.
Wears great, yeah.
And so, John, how will you manicure out this? Is this fig ivy?
That's fig ivy, so it is starting what we intended for it to do. It's going to grow across the risers on all of those steps. Oh, so over time, all you'll see is the limestone tread.
Wow. Fig ivy seems to be like the landscape architect's white paint trick a little bit.
It is.
Yeah, it's a great plant. Sometimes in hard freezes, you know, it'll burn in the winter. But, you know, our cold days don't last that long, so it recovers.
There's the dining terrace, which is so good looking. Love that. And see, it's off the pool house on the right. Well, the pool, we've got a pool pavilion and a pool house. So our kitchen is right to the right. So it's perfect place for dining.
All right.
We had to add to the rear of the house. We only added a small amount of space. The stonework here is a small sitting area and like a laundry, a catch-all room straight ahead. And we did a pergola to connect it to the outside. And John has planted it so beautifully. And it's very soft looking now. Which
yeah, well, this is really the entrance that the family uses day to day. The door to the right goes into a breakfast room and kitchen. The one to the left, like Norman was saying, is what is a laundry room and kind of potting room. And we did this was asphalt before, and we put gravel here and a lot of green things. So it's a very inviting place. I've even seen them take furniture out into this court and sit out in this space in the gravel.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, wow. And I have one question, or I have one person asking several questions about what was the vine on the pool house, and do olive trees survive in Atlanta, John?
Well, those were olive trees around the dining table, and it's not the best climate for them. The ones to the right, interestingly, have done better than the ones to the left just because of the way the winds blow. They don't like the cold weather. They don't particularly like the humidity, but they have kind of made it. But it's really the freezing temperatures that do them in. So we'll see how long they will live. Some of these have been cut back. Fortunately, they put out a lot of growth each year. So if I think the best way to grow them is to kind of keep them tight, keep the crowns tight.
Mm-hmm.
And the other question was about a vine.
Yes, a vine on the pool house.
Oh, there. Yes. So that's Boston ivy.
All right. And how do you actually, this is a question from me that I've always wondered about. How do you, I'm sure that there's a really simple reason. How do you make a tree look like it's growing out of pea gravel?
Well, the pea gravel's, it's just earth under the pea gravel. So it's growing right out of the ground.
Yeah.
And,
all right.
Yep.
And then, I mean, this feels like Marie Antoinette's Hamlet.
Well, this is interesting because this was an area, as I was mentioning, there was a lot of paving. There were 2 parking lots in the back of the house that were kind of terraced. This was the upper parking lot. So we took paving out to create this space and use the entire lot as a kitchen garden, did raised beds, and they grow all kinds of stuff. Really, the owner wanted to have this so that the grandchildren could learn how to plant things and grow food, and they have winter crops, summer crops. I just love the fact that they wanted to have this.
It's beautiful. So what kind of, you left the wood unfinished. Is that cedar? Is that antique wood? It has such a beautiful finish.
Cedar, and yes, cedar kind of grays out given a little bit of time. It bleaches out like this. So it's just untreated wood.
Beautiful.
Pea gravel, John?
Yes, and pea gravel.
That looks great.
It's hard to read it. It's hard to see the pea gravel, but that's what it is. It's just loose gravel in between.
And then where's this pavilion?
That's a newly built pavilion that overlooks the swimming pool, a place to get out of the sun since everybody's worried about that. So we designed 3 different designs, as I remember, and they were more like buildings. And finally she said, okay, we got enough architecture here, which they have a lot of. Let's do something very, very, very simple. And so we just did a simple pavilion, all out of beautifully put together wood, all handcrafted with and done mortise and tenon. I mean, it's a beautiful building, and it's all natural, no paint and no stain. We're just going to let it weather. So that's a view looking. It's on pretty much the level of the pool, and you can see how lush the environment is.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the grandkids' toys in that too.
Oh yeah.
I took that with my iPhone. And the owner said, well, don't you want to move that stuff? And I said, absolutely not.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's always that way. Yeah.
No, it looks well loved. I mean, I don't ever see a diving board anymore.
I know. Everybody's afraid of them, I think. The liability.
It's a pretty large pool. It has a very deep water on that end. And it's an old style springboard. which you just don't see them any longer.
No, they should have a Caddyshack themed party. Um, okay. Well, John, are we ready to go into your all-time favorites and you just tell me to keep clicking?
Sure. Yeah. So we'll start with this first one. Actually, this is a house that was renovated. I don't know, about 5 years ago mainly. This is the pool house. I think Norman, you designed this pool house. This is a house on Tuxedo Road, and we redid this area. The pool was there. You can see an elliptical spa, which is new, and then we put a bocce court in. And for the level change, we created a spot where people could sit on the steps and kind of observe the bocce. And I think that's it for that one.
All right.
This is a project that's actually a fire pit. So this was a part of a hillside that was reclaimed on the edge of a property. We created as a vineyard. The grapevines were actually staged for, I think it was the Atlanta Food and Wine Festival. And when it was over, we bought the grape vineyard from that and used it in a kind of a hillside terrace and put a fire pit so that they can go down there and drink wine and have a different kind of experience. It produces grapes amazingly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are they edible or are they just for wine? Like, are they too sour?
No, they're edible.
Huh.
I can't tell you the variety right off hand, but that's what that one is. I think we can go on to the next one. Yeah, this is I put this in here. We did not design this structure. Jim Choate, who was an architect in town, did, and I wanted to show this because this is actually a garage. And I think it's brilliant because the clients wanted a space adjacent to the garden where if they threw a party, they could entertain. So he dressed this building out with this level of finish on the inside, and you can see when the doors slide open, you're in the garden. So they can have tables in here, they can have food and bar set up, and they park in it during the week. But for a special event, it works as a pavilion.
Is it tricky? Was it hard for you to find that stone for like a garage grate if a car's leaking or whatnot?
Well, it's bluestone, and you just have to use a thick enough stone in an application like this. It has to be 2 or 3 inches thick, and you set it on a concrete base.
So smart. Where's this little oasis?
Well, all of the pictures that you're showing are in Atlanta. This is in Atlanta. This is part of a property that is kind of towards the rear of the property, and there was actually 2 different architects involved in this. The greenhouse was designed by Spitzmiller and Norris for a previous client, and then Bill Litchfield designed, you can't see much of it, but the stucco part on the left was a building that Bill designed that replaced a former pool house. And it's just a little sitting area. They're bleached pear trees with a wall fountain, faux bois furniture. And then the greenhouse was designed for both like overwintering plants, but it's also a space where you can hang out, have dinner parties, etc.
Is that an agave plant in the greenhouse?
It is. It's an agave. It's in a kind of a built-in planter on the edge.
And then how mature are these pear trees. I'm sorry, or did you say peach trees?
Yeah, those are probably 20-year-old plants.
Oh, wow.
And they have beautiful blooms in the spring, and they produce a lot of, I think they're kefir pears, and they produce a lot of fruit.
And then this looks like a petite pool house from
This
what we've been looking at.
pool house. This is a project in Brookhaven, and it it has kind of multiple levels to it. It's a very narrow, small pool. It has a spa to the left of it. Sometimes they drag chaises out there. I didn't want to have a lot of hardscapes, so we did limestone pavers with ground cover in between. Jim Choate was the architect. The building in the background is a little cabana, has a fireplace, just kind of a little hangout spot. And then the inn that the photo was taken from is off the back of a garage. It's another small porch. Very kind of lush setting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you can move on to the next one. So this is a koi pond. I tried to pick some diverse things for the presentation because people want all different kinds of things in their outdoor spaces, and this is a client who is a koi lover and connoisseur, and wanted a large scale koi pond. So we designed this. We raised it up and designed a coping for it so that you can actually sit on that coping safely. You can't really see the profile, but it is kind of bulbous and gets larger towards the edge. So ergonomically, you can sit on the edge of it and not kind of teeter into the koi pond. Koi pond's about 8 feet deep, has a special filtration system. There's actually a vault below ground with all the pump equipment for it. And it has I think this is a Nico blue hydrangea border that blooms early summer.
Can the koi winter there, or?
Yeah, absolutely. They're in there year round. And we wanted, part of it is the depth of the water, but also the blue heron love koi. And it's a deep enough pond where the koi can swim down to a depth that they're safe, and they like the colder water too. So the depth helps with just the health of the fish.
Was the ergonomically designed top of the wall your idea for sitting?
Well, yes, it was, but it's a shape that I saw in front of the Plaza Hotel in New York. They have a big fountain right in front of the hotel, and it is a shape that I kind of borrowed from it and inverted it. In the case there, the lower side is towards the water.
On this one, it's lower?
No, in front of the Plaza Hotel it is. Here, I kind of reversed it. And just, I didn't really copy the shape, but it was a shape that I've always admired.
I love it. It's like the walls at Gowdy Park. I've sat on those for a while before. And then here we have another circular garden.
Yeah, so I threw this one in because there's nothing like dining outside. This was a house that had an existing brick wall, and it previously there was a patio here, but it was just kind of harsh. It was flagstone. It was not that inviting. We took all the stone out, put gravel in, put a round table in there, and kind of lushly planted the edges.
I mean, this looks
a great gathering spot.
It looks so simple and low maintenance, but is it?
It's very low maintenance. Yeah, all of the planting's low maintenance, and the gravel material for the terrace is low maintenance as well.
Is the table zinc or aluminum?
The table is zinc and it has a stone base underneath it.
How large is that tabletop?
I would say it's about 7 feet across.
That's fantastic. Hard to reach for a arrangement, but worth it.
Right, exactly. I mean, and you could squeeze more chairs in
No,
if you had a really big dinner.
for sure. Let's move on. Oh, I love this pool. It feels like it's in the garden.
Yeah, so this is a house on Tuxedo Road. Bill Litchfield designed the house, stone house. They wanted a swimming pool, but they wanted a garden as much as a swimming pool. So we designed this as the focal point at the end of the garden. And when you look out from the house, you see the statue there on the right is kind of the centerpiece for it, with a spillway. And then on the side you're looking at, there's a long walk that's on axis with a window. And then behind us would be another terrace that you walk up to that has the pool chaises set at the same level that you're seeing the pedestal there.
And I love these trees. They're sort of like a screen, but they're so open that you can see through them.
Yeah, these are fastigiate European hornbeams, and they can be clipped and pleached really easily. Here they're used loosely, but it's a fantastic tree. They grow kind of in many climates all over the world. And they grow so narrowly that they make a nice hedge. I think these were planted probably 30 inches apart.
Oh, wow. All right, Norman, I think it's time for us to go into your favorites.
Okay,
Are you ready?
ready.
All right.
Well, this is a house we did about 15 years ago for a family that had 3 young boys at the time. So it's kind of a new, kind of a modern Tudor house. Kind of has modern edges to it, but it's an old-fashioned at the same time. So they wanted the rear of the house, it's walled in, and they wanted to have a place for the children to have fun and have parties and all that. So we accommodate with a built-in grill, and then we have a rustic room off the kitchen where it's a sitting room and dining room, and with glass, steel and glass opening windows and doors. So it's really an all year round sitting area, but you feel like you're sitting in the garden when you're in that room. It is amazing. In a few minutes, I have a couple more shots of this area too. Okay, next slide. So we're let's see back up. Here we're in Palm Beach, a house we did about 20 something years ago, and it's on a very, very narrow lot. So we did it's an H-shaped plan, and this is the back of the H, and we did a loggia in the rear, and all the important rooms like the breakfast room straight ahead, and to the left is the living room, and behind us is a library and master bedroom that everything opens onto this loggia, and the loggia luckily faces east. As you can see here, this is morning light coming in, so this room is shielded from the severe afternoon hot sun. We're lucky enough to have clients who were willing to go for coquina columns, and the caps all hand carved, and the whole building is stucco, but all the cornices and everything was carved coquina stone, which made for a really high quality, beautiful house. So this loggia overlooks a garden space and with a balustrade at the end, and then a large, a small lake out behind. So the outdoors and the indoors are almost are all joined together. In the front, we have a same H shape, but no loggia. And so it's a walled-in garden that's really amazing. You enter the house and through a garden. And it was decorated with Moroccan furniture, which is so edgy and so fine and extremely comfortable. So they literally lived out here in the good parts of the year.
Wow. And so how many acres is this home on?
Oh, it's tiny. It's I mean, we kiss every setback on the sides and the front. It's I think it's like maybe less than 100 feet wide, and it was 200 or 300 feet deep. So we were lucky, but everything had to be, very linear to make it fit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a challenge, but it all worked out beautifully.
I can tell.
Now we're back in Atlanta, and this is a house for a couple that had two young girls. I guess they're now teenagers. But and they wanted a French house, and they loved the early French, the Renaissance, and also the classical French. They liked it all. So we wanted to incorporate all the different likes. And so we went to France, and we were able to buy a lot of stuff for the house, which always makes for a better house. So the house is about 300 feet long, and everything opens onto a rear courtyard and a huge swimming pool. And one of their major requests was a room that you see on the left that is an large open porch, which is really like a living, it's a whole house unto itself, but it's an outdoor house. And here's another shot from the inside. It's the next slide, the next picture. Here's the open porch. It's a large room, and it had a fireplace. And then we got that mantelpiece in France. And it's very, very comfortable furniture. This is more what you might see in the south of France, where the rest of the house is more of a northern French feeling, but it all mixes together pretty well. And an interesting thing we added during construction, on the left of the fireplace, you can see that steel and glass doors there, and that goes to a little outdoor, like a little grilling kitchen, which has a real grill in there with a huge system to evacuate the smoke, a sink and refrigerator. And one special feature that he wanted, because he wanted a special air conditioning duct that blows cold air in his face when he's cooking. Because,
No way.
it gets so hot, in the summer. So it's the perfect, he can shut the door and he's in there by himself, or we can have it open. It all opens up. But here you see how close we are to the pool. And there's a huge series of walls in the back. I mean, we cut a mountain out. It's about 40 feet high right there. And it's retaining wall after retaining wall. They set back, and we planted it so you can't see but the main wall. There are two other walls you really can't see.
Oh my gosh. Norman, can you tell me about this exposed ceiling? And is that terracotta tile?
Well, yes, and that's the most interesting thing. He had been a lot in the south of France, where the pitch of the roofs is very low, and he had loved this image of a lot of times they will have ceilings where you can see the underside of the roof tiles. They'll have purlins that hold them up. So of course we have a slate. I mean, we have a tile roof on this house. He wanted antique tiles, so we bought those, and we put scaffolding in there. And these poor guys had to lie on their back, like to the Sistine Chapel, and screw every single one of those tiles up there, because there's really another roof on top of it. And but anyway, it's very effective, and lots and lots of character, and they just love it. That was a real splurge. But I love the way it looks.
What was harder to pull off, the terracotta tiles on the inside of the roof, or the air conditioning vent by the grill?
Oh, well, both of them, if you got enough money, you can do anything, Both of them were easy to pull off, actually. But this was really a challenge to figure out how to do it.
It's beautiful.
I like it too. Now, we're back at that modern Tudor house that we started out with. And this is the wife of this couple is from Scandinavia. So when her family comes to visit, it's not for the weekend, it's for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So they needed a serious guest house. So it's actually a garage on the first floor, and you can go upstairs, and it's a very nice guest house. And it's all part of this pool complex, you know, with there's a pavilion, there's, you know, there's a whole complex of buildings. And then we have lots and lots of roses and things that bloom all the time. Unfortunately, this doesn't really show it in bloom, but it's amazing with boxwood hedges. Rick Anderson was a landscape architect who helped me with this.
I love the different colors of the boxwood, the
Pretty,
bulbs with the.
I love that too. I agree with you.
Um,
And then now we're still in Atlanta, and this was one of the most interesting projects. It was a couple from California in the movie business, in the soap opera business, and so we were doing this house for them about 25 years ago, and they kept going to France every 6 months, and they would buy containers full of architectural pieces and parts, that furniture, everything under the sun, and they would ship it to Atlanta. Then we'd have to catalog everything and figure out what in the world to do with it. So they were all excited. They sent us an email and said, "Oh, we bought a facade of a French building, and that's the center part of this building. And then the coins on the ends were also part of the shipment." So we thought, Lord, what are we going to do with this? So we decided just to turn this into the pool house, because it was beautiful. It's all beautifully done, hand carved, with a great motif in the pediment, and real vernacular, so it fit better on an outbuilding than it would in the main building. Then we bought an 18th century roof for this building and the house, terracotta roof from France. We had that shipped over. And and the house is full of pieces and parts from France. Right now, this house is owned by a new senator from Georgia. And I think they love this house.
I bet. What's it like inside this pool house?
Well, it's a kitchen. You know, you can entertain, and I think there may be a bedroom. I can't remember. And then below is a great big exercise room. And the house is a very large, like 24,000 square foot house behind the stucco, the same style.
Wow.
And then we're back at that French house. So I mentioned that the owners loved all different periods of French architecture. So we decided to do the back of house stuff, kind of in early, you know, Renaissance, maybe hangover Gothic, you know, in more of a real country way. And so we have the Gothic arch, and we have early small windows and a very steep pitch roof. So the building on the right is a changing room, bathroom for the pool. There's actually a pair of those buildings. And the tall tower in the middle is a stairway up to his home office, which is over a 3 or 4 car garage. And John, they are the olive trees that have survived. I guess they're still there. And they were so proud to have those. They made it through some tough winters years ago. And then in the middle, you see the terracotta statue there that was bought when we were in France. We saw that we just had to have it. It's a beautiful figure to put in this little small garden around the house. Right there. Yeah, it looks great.
So, Norman, how did you approach this whole house? Was it sort of like you were building your own French village?
Yeah. We have a storyline. You know, it started out in the medieval France, you know, when the family lives upstairs and the cows and the wagons are below, you know, and that's the garage structures are built like that. And then as the family grew, they kept adding onto the house. And finally, in the Louis XV period, in the mid-18th century, they made it big. So we did the big formal Louis XV part of the house. And it's very dressy with some gilded woodwork and very elegant rooms. So it's a story of about 400-year progression of French architecture. Of course, it was all built at once, but it has a story. That's my favorite thing, is to come up with storylines.
So how in depth do your storylines go? Like, did you decide what industry they struck it big in the 15th century?
No, it was in the country. We don't really know what they did. Probably farming, because this is definitely a country house. So maybe farming, or maybe they, I don't know, got into the wool business. Who knows? But it's
Uh-huh.
a great storyline, and it makes the house make sense, because it's not all the same period. It's all different periods, but that's the charm of the whole thing.
Oh yeah. And then you're
By
just
now, I think this has now got fig vine or Boston ivy growing all over the place, and it's gotten. This was early on when it was pretty much newly finished, but the house has got even more and more romantic over the past few years. It's amazing.
all right. Well, we're about to visit another place.
Yeah.
Might
So
be your favorite.
then we go into Provence, and an Atlanta couple that I've worked with for years. They bought this large piece of property in Provence, and it had three conjoined farmhouses. For some reason, they were hooked together. I have no idea why. I guess the family grew. And they were from 17th, this part is 17th century, you see, and there's 18th and then 19th century. So we gutted the entire interior because it was a big mess. And and this was a wreck. I mean, like that, none of these gardens were here. It was like fields and equipment all over the place. They had huge sheds, for farm equipment. There was no beautiful anything here. So they hired a landscape architect from England to design the grounds, which are unbelievable. So it's kind of out in the country a little bit, and so it's got lots and lots of gardens to entertain guests, who come and stay, and family. So they have lots to do. They can walk. They have an incredible swimming pool area that's beautiful, and there's fruit trees, and they grow a lot of produce, and it's just the most romantic house. Buddy Williams did the interior, so that was, of course, how beautiful that's got to be. This house is in her new book, and it's one of my favorite projects I've ever done. And I never went to France I never saw it until 2 years ago when we went there for lunch. I did the whole thing with another French architect and lots of photographs, and it worked out great.
So you didn't do any site visits to this
No,
house?
never did a site visit. I was going to once, and something happened. I never went, but I mean, these French architects, they were amazing. They did the most amazing drawings I've ever seen in my life, locating every single thing in the building. So I just worked with those. And then I would do mostly hand sketches, and then I would ship them over there, and then they would turn them into, working drawings. So it worked like a dream. It was a miracle, actually.
Norman, that's like the most COVID appropriate story.
I'm telling you, yeah, just social distancing, I can do it. And I had to work with, of course, in metric, which I had done before and gotten real good at it. And then you forget it immediately. And then I had to go back to my metric days. You know how that is.
I don't know how that is, and
It's
I'm glad. But you're
You have,
better
to,
than
you
I
have to really start thinking metric is very hard to do.
am. And then we have this sweet little detail.
Yeah, we're back in Atlanta now. This is a beautiful 40s house. I can't remember the architect's name, but anyway, it's a beautiful setting, lots of land. And so this family they had this ridge of land that went away from the house, and then it dropped off in all directions. It was a spine, and had no use. So, and it was pretty far from the house. So they said, let's do a guest house out there, then a pool house, guest house. And so we designed a building in the same spirit as the house, like a American federal house. And we did a porch on the front, not too dressy, just kind of countrified a little bit. And next slide, and I'll show you. It's in the most romantic setting you can ever believe. As you walk out in the back through a garden, you all of a sudden get the first peek of this building to the left, and the pool, I mean, it's way away. And you get a peek at the pool and the building, and it's one of those just magical spots that who would ever believe that you'd put a pool there in a pool house, but it works. It's so private and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite projects in town.
And I love the proportions of that pool house.
It's really pretty. And I've done several additions on the house and just recently added another elevator. And it's just a fantastic house.
Well, I love it. And all of y'all's clients have great places to socially distance themselves.
Oh, yeah. We're so lucky to have clients who will let us do what we can do best.
Well, now, thank y'all. We're going to open it up for questions. I've been kind of filtering them through, but let's see if we have any. Or do y'all have any questions for each other? How often do you get to sit down and show each other your favorite projects?
Well, we generally work on things together, and it's fine. We're real honest with each other. That's good.
Yeah, that's always good. And it's such a fun process to collaborate. You learn so much from your collaborators, and you share your ideas. You hear theirs, and it really makes the outcome so much richer.
Oh, yeah.
Because of it.
Oh, wait, I've got one question that just came in. When you two are working together, who usually comes up with that first imaginative storyline? And have y'all ever not been on the same page about a story?
Well, we don't do that many storylines, really. If it's just a typical house, if you need a storyline when it's all this, additive structure with all these different outbuildings and things, that helps a lot. No, we always, generally, John and I think the same thing. I mean, are close.
Yeah,
he tells me what he's thinking, I tell him what I'm thinking, and it kind of falls into place.
It does. And, with our garden designs, we always look to the architecture to really inspire the way we create the garden. An English house and a French style house probably have a different approach to them. So we always, look at how the house lives and let the outdoor spaces respond to the interior rooms and let them respond to, the style of architecture.
Yeah, and John's real sensitive to north, south, east, and west. So am I, and I loved working with him because, we can work it all out where the house is comfortable for people to live in, and you don't have, unless they love afternoon sun and sunsets, you have to be so sensitive to where you put what. Otherwise, it's unusable. Like a porch on the west side is really tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we try to work it where the climate works well with a house.
Right, because in the West, you'll just bake while you watch the sunset.
Mm-hmm. And then Scandinavians often they love the sunset. So they're happy as a clam if you can give them a Western exposure, for the yard. They love it.
Because they're freezing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're freezing in
Yeah,
Scandinavia?
they're freezing cold, so they love that sunset. And to me, I think I love looking at it, but I don't want to burn up either.
Well, they have so many dark days.
Yeah, they have.
I think they love their sunshine.
They do. So that you have to adapt to how people think, and what you think people are going to like don't necessarily like. So you have to figure out what they feel good about.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine that they let the two of you take the reins. Your clients.
Say that again.
I would imagine that your clients let you and John kind of take the reins.
Yeah. That's when we give them the best work, is when they give us a little rope, so the controlling clients are the hardest ones to work for. If somebody gives you a little rope, you'll come up with something way more creative than you would with somebody who's questioning every single thing. Don't you think, John?
I absolutely. And, I think it's great to have clients that kind of know what they want, at least programmatically. I think some of the hardest projects to work on is when you don't have a really defined program going into it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so true.
Well, I think that we've given our attendees enough rope to work with to get inspired for their spaces for Memorial Day weekend. What do y'all think?
I think so.
I hope so. I think that with the COVID, that people are realizing the importance of both interior spaces and garden spaces. And I think that going forward, that people are going to really think about the quality of their environment.
No question about it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm doing the same thing. Well, all right. Well, thank you for your time, everyone. And I hope everyone is scooting off to Memorial Day vacations safely, or at least Memorial Day lounging by their pools or grass or wherever they can find. And I just want to remind y'all that we've just reposted the link to our May issue. So please check it out and let us know what you think. And have a great weekend, everyone. I'm going to sign off. And thank you again, Norman and John. I know it was a lot of time.
This was so fun.
It was fun. We'll do it again, maybe in person today.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
Bye now.
You gotta turn this thing off.
Yeah. Sounded like it went well.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh, I didn't.
I'm trying to end this.